in there. Well, not ran. I had to waddle my way through because of the snow. But they were like, oh, you have an online pickup? Is it a quart of silver flames? I was like, girl, you already know. It's huge. So I wanted to unbox together because this is an experience, okay? So a whole brick. Oh, girl, it's so thick and heavy. No, it's bent. Oh well, it's gonna be damaged. I feel like I'm gonna throw this book anyway. Look at the inside. Can you see? It has suns and flames, which, how do we feel about this cover? I do not like it. I mean, looks aren't always important, but in this case it is, and it's horrendous. Yeah, I don't like this. I'm sorry. I don't like the aesthetic of this book, but let us hope the inside redeems it. I am very much excited. I'm going to hork this down because I do have the day off today. So we're gonna see how much I can read today. This is bad impulsive decision, but I did snag the Illumicrate dust jacket box thing with this as well in it because I refuse to believe that I'm gonna own a book with this type of cover. No. So I did get the one with Alithian art. I think that's her username. I got the one with her art for her alternative dust jackets, and they're beautiful. And she just revealed, because obviously the release date was today, she released the cover art she did for this, and it's beautiful. So I know it was a great decision on my part. But yes, I am excited. Sarah J. Maas, if you disappoint me once again, I don't know. This better live up to my expectations, because as a Cassian book, because we stand Cassian in this household, he is my Illyrian husband. We don't stand Nesta as of right now. We don't like her, but I sure hope that this is gonna be a good book because it's following Cassian. So let us pray that this turns out well.
Hello, update time. So I'm about 50 pages into A Quart of Silver Flames, and I have made 3 observations so far. Observation number 1, Nesta does not deserve rights, least of all Cassian, and you can fight me on that. Observation number 2, I completely forgot how horny these characters are all the time. Like, that took me all the way out. And then 3, the one similarity I will say so far that I have with Nesta is that we read spicy books to feel something and to beat the depression away. Valid. Hello, it's the next morning. I have read around like 100 pages this morning, and there is some semblance of plot now. I can definitely say for a fact. At least it's starting to get somewhat plot oriented, and I do have the day off today, so I'm gonna see how much I can get through today. Maybe halfway. I feel like that's ambitious to say, but I'm gonna try and get as much reading done as possible today, so I will check back in. Also, as you can see, I did get some tabs in. Not necessarily good things, more so like stuff I commented on because yeah, just things that I had thoughts about and had feelings about. So do with that information what you will, but yeah. I did get to page 233 today, and I will say overall, plot-wise, there's definitely a lot more sense of a plot line going around compared to like the first initial 100 pages. The first 100 pages, I was bored out of my mind. Like, please get me out of here. I hate it here. But then say it has like officially picked up and like I'm invested. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten to like read 200 pages today, almost 300, if I wasn't invested. Like, I don't hate myself that much, but it has improved. But then again, like, it has patterns, like past patterns of hers that I've noticed before. It's starting to pop up again, and I hate to say it, but it makes it feel predictable, and I don't know how I feel about that. I'm still gonna continue for sure. She is definitely exploiting my weakness of the whole tension while sparring and training dynamic, so yeah, I'll check back in later. I feel like I waited so long for that to happen, and now that it finally happened, I'm just...
Hello, so it's the next day. I feel like I was complaining so much about nothing happening that SGM was like, oh girl, buckle your seatbelt, because when I tell you I needed to recover, it was far too much. I was stampeded last night against my will, but I was not mad about it. It was like everything I was waiting for finally happened. And now that it actually happened, I'm still processing that it did happen. When I tell you that was a whole different experience, because I have read all of her other ACOTAR books back in the old days. I did read all of them. So this one was very much eye-opening. 'Twas an experience. I got to 300 pages last night. I feel like it's ambitious to say that I'll get close to finishing tonight, but like at least get somewhere around the 75% finished point. I'm trying so hard to just like go into it with like as little expectation as possible to lessen the chances of me getting like butthurt over it not living up to my expectations. That's the current status right now. Sort of like starting to see plot-wise what SJM's trying to do with Nesta, because right now like we're still trying to figure out what her powers are exactly, like after the whole cauldron ordeal with her and Elaine after ACOWAR, but we're paying attention to Nesta right now. I am just sort of continuing with no expectations and just trying to like keep a neutral mindset. So we will see. Also, I wanted to point out, so in this book, we're following both Nesta and Cassian's point of view versus the initial trilogy that we're just following Farah, which honestly, this is a breath of fresh air because it was exhausting just listening to one character's point of view the entire time. So it's nice to be able to bounce between two similar but also very different characters and being able to see how the events of the last book of ACOWAR affected both of them, because up until this point we didn't really get to see inside of their heads as to how the last book affected them. We could tell externally, but we couldn't really tell like internally how it affected them. So I will say that is interesting. That's like a breath of fresh air that I enjoy. I'm getting into neutral territory with Nesta. I did start off hating her ass. Like I could not stand her. I am team Cassian the whole way. Nesta, if you mess up my boy, it's on sight. You can catch these hands, because Cassian only deserves the absolute best. If I were fictional, I'd be like, I ship myself with him, but we're not getting into that delusion today. Not me nervously looking around the parking lot. And I'm excited to see how the rest of the book holds up. So we'll keep you updated.
Okay, so things are starting to get interesting, so I figured I would update. I didn't get as far as I thought I would today, but I'm currently on page 356. So I was like, let me pause and do an update before things start picking up, because they're definitely picking up. So I will say, so far, we definitely are getting like a closer glimpse into Nesta's true powers. She finally grabbed a hold of my interest and my attention now, and also like her starting to step into the role that I saw her stepping into, or at least like have her being set up to step into role wise in this book, and I am liking it. I am cautiously optimistic of how this is going, in the sense that it's gonna stay interesting and intriguing. When I tell you the dynamics between Cassian and Nesta are like one of the best, if not the best, of this entire franchise series, or whatever you want to call it, and just top tier, chef's kiss. I am but a simp, and it's very good, I will say. And it's getting to a stressful part, so yeah, that's why I was like, let me update while I still can. I'm not freaking out. So I'm debating if I want to read this now or wait until tomorrow morning. So it's the next morning. I, in fact, did not read more last night because I got to a very stressful part, and I was like, yep, closing the book, enough for one night. I am about to jump into the stress now that it's the morning and I am about to have some caffeine in my system. Yeah, let's hope nothing bad happens. I'm not gonna keep my hopes up, but fingers crossed that nothing bad happens. Okay, really quick, so I just finished reading the initial stressful part, and I feel like SJM sometimes said that Nesta is her favorite character to write. I'll have to check it later because I'm scared of spoilers, but I feel like she said it at one point, and I can see why she would say that now, because what happened just now, I refuse to be a Nesta stan. I refuse over my dead body, because I hated her so much for so long. SJM is really like, oh, let's blur the line for you, shall we? And I'm like, I refuse it. Not me hiding to read this So I have approximately 200 pages left. Do I have the energy to finish this? Am I emotionally capable of finishing this? To be determined. I don't like where this is going. I refuse to read this. I refuse to read this. If I know if she's gonna pull the shit I think she's gonna pull, I pretend I cannot read. I do not read. Oh God, please. Maybe Nesta does deserve rights after all. I still have 30 pages left. Let me wait. Bitch, I refuse. This is SJM. We're not gonna have a sad ending. But she's really playing with me right now. And I still have 20 pages left. Oh my God. Welcome to group therapy. So, initial thoughts upon finishing this book.
had all the flavor that the last 3 books have been lacking. SJM said, let's finally put some salt on this baby. We finally got some content that's flavorful. I consider myself a slow reader. The fact that I read and finished this, I read 400 pages in one day night. I was shook to my cores. This is like not usual behavior for me. I finished this in essentially like 3 days, which I wanted to soak it in as much as possible because, like I've said multiple times, this is the Cassian book. I am the biggest Cassian stan of the people that I know. Like, I have stood by his side for like 5 years at this point. And the fact that we finally have the Cassian book in the flesh is just a dream come true, at least for me. Upon pondering on this, after like letting this soak in, I think I read this maybe like 2 days. It's been 2 days since I finished it. So I will say I'll give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars. And that's a great rating considering how much was done in this book, even though I feel like it didn't need to be this long. With what was accomplished in this book, I feel like it was a lot more impactful than the ACOTAR trilogy. I finally settled on 4 stars because the main focus of this, even though it wasn't totally, there was plot, although it wasn't a large percentage of this book. The shining star of this book was character development, which that's one of my weaknesses. It needs to be done well though, and I can say that it was done really well in this book. So the pacing was also kind of wonky for me, went up and down in regards to fast paced versus really slow. Especially the beginning took a while for me, even though I think it took maybe 100-200 pages for me to like start getting sucked in, and then like the 300 page point I was finally like full on invested. That in itself warranted like a 3, and in character development was like a 4.5, 5. So that's why I landed on like a 4. Going in, my initial thoughts. So okay, we'll start with theory. So my first theory was that SJM was going to attempt to make me into a Nesta stan. Theory number 2, that Cassian and Nesta are gonna be mates. And that's solely because, how are you gonna tell me with her past behavior and this thick of a book that's solely about NESSIAN that you're not gonna make them into mates? Like that was my thinking. I said, I'm highly suspicious. And thoughts going in that I was extremely concerned about. When I read ACOWAR, back when ACOWAR first came out, that, in my opinion, was the prime example of SJM trying to do fan service for many reasons. That's a discussion for another time. But I personally have witnessed and experienced what I consider to be her doing fan service. My thought process walking into this was that she's going to flip a switch and make Nesta go from the biggest asshole and most hated character of the entire franchise and just make her into like a wonderful person. And no, that's not gonna cut it for me, Miss Girl. I need her to grovel. I need her to own up to the shit that she put other people through, especially Cassian. And yeah, those are mandatory for it to happen, for me to consider this not being fan service. So yeah, those are like my initial theories and thoughts going into the book. So yeah, like I said, I feel as though this one was very much character development oriented. Although there was like an underlying plot throughout, it was still contributing to the overall picture of character development. I'm happy to say that it was a lot better than that, and it did not follow that pattern. So good job, SJM. You heard me. You heard my thoughts. You knew I was watching you over the past 5 years to not mess this one thing you had going for me. I will say that I love how it was done because it was very much in the beginning showing Nesta immediately following the events of ACOWAR, because in the actual book ACOWAR, we only see everything happening externally, especially because it's in Feyre's point of view. So we only see all of the events that happened externally to the other characters. We don't actually see how it mentally, emotionally affected them. So now in this book, we get both point of views. So we get Nesta's point of view and we get Cassian's point of view. In the very beginning, we got to see an external point of view of like how Nesta's doing via Cassian's point of view, and we get to see internally how she's doing mentally, emotionally, that she doesn't let on to others through Nesta's point of view. Although I was not happy about it, I did respect why that needed to happen. So that's why I was not a fan of the first 100, 200 pages, because that's like full on asshole Nesta, and I was just not having a good time. And I understood why it needed to happen, but that doesn't mean that I was happy about it. I really enjoyed that fact that we're not only bouncing between two points of views, but also finally get to see what makes the most hated character work. The healing process that Nesta went through was very realistic in the sense that it wasn't a linear journey that I was expecting her to go on. There were steps forward, there were steps backwards, there was a left turn, a right turn, a D turn, a U turn, everything. And which that's what makes a healing journey and makes it genuine and not just like fictitious. That's what I really appreciated. There's one particular part in the book where as she's starting to heal herself and be self-aware and acknowledge her actions and what she says and does, not only to herself but to others, that she slips up by starting to slip back into old habits of just spitting venom at whoever she thinks is posing as a threat to her. Seeing how she responded or reacted to her behavior was very different from how she was in the very beginning. Not to say that it's perfect, but it's showing progress in her journey. And so that's what I really appreciated, that we get to see one of these slip-ups. And like, not to say that she only slipped up once, she slips up several times, but it's like a constant progression in the right direction. So to add on to my initial thought of like how I thought her character development was going to go, I was very concerned about how Cassian was going to be handled. So Cassian, in the prior 3 books, he is very strong-willed, he's very hard-headed. Also, to counteract that, he's so extremely loyal, he's so selfless and so tenacious that, and I saw so much in myself in him that I think that's why the bias bond clicked in for me. And that's why he is still my favorite character in the entire series. And I was so worried that SJM was going to compromise his character to benefit Nesta's journey. That is not what I wanted, and that's not what we got. So I was very happy about that, and that he constantly keeps Nesta accountable while also keeping others accountable. The healing process is a two-way street. You can't expect someone to put an effort in healing themselves without having other people try and show that same effort by acknowledging the other person's effort, if that makes sense. I love that Cassian was very much a unifier and a divider in keeping everyone accountable, and so, which we love an accountable king. So yes, I loved him, and I love that his morals and his character was not sacrificed to benefit another character, because he is his own individual character, and I love that he was treated as such. Now for rapid fire of everything else that I enjoyed about this book. So I loved the friendships in here between Nesta, Emery, and Gwen. I love the house. Who would think I would stan a house? But yet here we are, a house that provides warm food and romance books for days. I love that we actually get to see a lot more of Azriel in this book. In the previous 3 books, we see glimpses of him, but he doesn't have a very prominent presence throughout the books. And I love how we actually get to see more of him in this book. He's so snarky, he's so sassy. I said, Azriel, have you been hiding this in your shadows? Like, where has this been? I love him more now than I did before. Or I haven't read the bonus story of Face and for obvious reasons. I mean, we did read 3 books of them. I'm tired of them. But I did read the bonus story of Azriel, and I honestly was not planning, I still am not planning to read whatever other spin-off book SJM is going to come out with, because honestly, this book alone was the only reason why I was even going to go back to this series, because it is the Cassian book. But after reading that short story or that bonus scene of Azriel, mayhaps we'll have to look into it, because that was interesting. Also like the fact that because I didn't remember much from ACOTAR, I didn't need to remember much from ACOTAR, because what important stuff I needed to know was revisited in this book. So we love to see that. And yeah. Also, I know this does not need to be discussed, but the chemistry was chef's kiss. It was everything that I was hoping for and more. Like I said, the full spice rack of the ACOTAR series, in my humble opinion. But you cannot fight me on that, because that's facts. Hello, Editing Samira. So I realized that there were still several things that I forgot to mention in the video, so I will just make this into the spoiler section. So I'll just like put a disclaimer. As I was thinking about it more and more, a lot of the other thoughts that I had were spoiler related, and I just need to get it off my chest. So that's hence why we have a spoiler section now. One thing that I could not mention before because spoilers, I absolutely loved was the fact that the topic of Valkyries was explored throughout this book. And the fact that Nesta, as part of her healing journey, she had to go start training with Cassian, which is why I was like mentally struggling because of the tension while sparring trope. I love that that was part of her, that was sort of like the catalyst for this. And while she was training, she started learning about the topic of Valkyries through another character who's brought up Gwen. And the fact that she goes to Cassian to sort of see if they can implement this in her training, and to not only train her, but possibly train other females, because during this time, there aren't female warriors, at least with the Illyrians, because the Illyrians are very much misogynistic and sexist. And so she wants to be able to start some sort of branch with Valkyries, or Valkyries in their own right, of just having a league of female warriors, which we stand. I was all about it. She basically helps bring this to fruition, of course, with Cassian. And the fact that Cassian was the one that helped train them and like didn't treat them any differently, and just he was simultaneously such a gentleman while also being such a ruthless trainer. He treated them fairly regardless if they were females or not, and the bar's on the ground, but at least Cassian can reach above it, you know, so we will take that. And the fact that major contributing factor to the book as a whole was just, I loved it. It was so enjoyable to read, and yes, female empowerment, I love. I did mention one of my theories was that Cassian and Nesta were gonna be mates. It happened. It was a whole other experience. That was when that clip where I just plopped onto the bed, that was what happened. I did say I saw it coming, and was it predictable? Yes. Was I upset about it? No. I mean, the 1% of me that was upset about it was just because Faceand's already mates, and then Cassian and Nesta now are mates. Well, now that like we know the context of ACOTAR, Lucian and Elaine are mates, so that sort of like takes it out of the picture of Elaine and Azriel being mates, or so we think. She better not pull anything that doesn't make sense. Like, okay, well, I guess that was her compromise, to not have all the sisters end up with all the brothers, essentially, as mates especially. And so I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna be super upset about it. Like I'm happy because you already knew, as long as Cassian was happy at the end of the book, that's all I cared about. I didn't care whether Nessa was in the picture or not. Just as long as Cassian was happy, that's all I cared about. It was so equally painful and angsty and just so, I'm hurting just thinking about it again. It was everything and more. And the fact that he's a hopeless, like it was confirmed in the book, he's a hopeless romantic. How to be, the one time I want to be Nesta Archeron, TBH. I love the reveal and I love the scene afterwards, and it wasn't cringy in any way because that wouldn't have been authentic to their dynamic and relationship, which I loved. And I did not want something basic like face and I did not get that, so I was very happy. So another thing that I did really love, this was a very much a love-hate situation. So I loved how Nesta, before this book, we knew that she took something from the cauldron as her power, but we didn't know what it was, just that it's very powerful. It's powerful in the sense that we've never seen anything to this level in the previous books before. And to the point that Amryn was concerned. So when Amryn is concerned, we all should be concerned. I love that they explored that in this book. And the fact that her power is controlling death. Ness is the only person that I could imagine wielding that power, and it was so fitting and so badass. And I was like, you know what? I may not like you, Nesta Archeron, but I love the fact that this is your power because it's so badass. Literally no one can touch you. And so I was like, yes, iconic shit. And I just thought that was so fitting for her. Unlike Elaine, I don't know what the fuck Elaine is doing. I loved her power. Her power was my favorite thing. Now for the bitter part of this bittersweet topic. I absolutely did not like how everything went down at the end in regards to Nesta having to give up her power to yet again save Faysand because Faysand stays fucking up my ship. I can understand the principle behind it, that she became selfless for the first time in the entire series for the love of her sister that she never acknowledged or never indulged in. So I can understand that part. What I did not like was the fact that she basically has no remnant of that power anymore. And I do know throughout the book she did say that she never wanted her powers. I respect that. And I just thought that it could have been handled better, especially the fact that Rhys, of everyone, Rhys was giving Nesta the most shit the entire book, to the point that even Azriel and Cassian had to tell him, like, hey, it's not fair at all that everyone else is at least giving her a chance, like at least acknowledging that she's trying to heal herself and process all the trauma that she's been through, but you being an asshole about it is not helping at all. And I mean, at first I was Team Rhysand because I was the same way, but with the fact that he at some point in the book had to go into her mind and he firsthand saw how much trauma she went through to the point that he was shaking because of how similar it was to his trauma. The fact that you can relate to it and you actually saw everything she was going through, yet you give her such a hard time, that's what did not sit well with me. And the fact that he never gave her the time of day. He never apologized to her until she saved their asses. Because these bitches, of course, at the end of ACOWAR, they do the bargain that, oh, I don't want to leave this world without you. Which, I mean, okay, the hopeless romantic in me understands. But the fact that, oh, also, I didn't mention that they're pregnant in this book. Another thing that threw a wrench into the whole situation. Not only is the fact that they found out, because they decided to be kinky, that the child is going to be Illyrian, aka the baby's going to have wings, Farah's body is not capable of birthing an Illyrian child, to the point that the likelihood of her dying is very highly possible. So not only did they do that stupid ass bargain, They're playing with her life, his life, and the baby's life. So it's basically like 2 birds, 1 stone, essentially. And the fact that we could not have anything nice because of this dumbassery. Like, just the fact that he did not apologize to Nesta until he was on his knees thanking her for saving his life. That just rubbed me off the wrong way. And like that just, no, it really did not rub me the right way, and I did not like how that whole situation was handled. I don't know what it was, like, SJM really did something to Rhysand that made me like actually not like him in this book. I mean, I did tolerate him before, but then again, I was a lot younger when I read it, so maybe he's been like this the whole time, but I could not stand him in this book. He was acting like a 12-year-old, throwing sexual innuendos every time he popped up on the page, no fail. And I was like, sir, no. He was like a Dollar Tree version of what I remember, and that's not in a good way. And I did not like him at all, especially, so now I can talk about it because it's a spoiler section. When I read Azriel's chapter, Azriel is about to act on his feelings or his growing feelings for Elaine, and vice versa. And the fact that Rhysand comes up in there and starts threatening Azriel, like, who do you think you are, sir? It feels as though SJM was like, oh, I have an agenda to make Samira hate Rhysand. And it worked. Rhysand does not deserve rights after that chapter. Because of that fact alone, you know how there's like that ongoing joke about, I think this was back in ACOMAF, trying to say who has the largest wingspan out of the 3 of them. It was insinuated at the time that Azriel has the biggest one. Well, after how SJM portrayed Rhysand in this book, due to the choices that he made, he has the smallest one, and you cannot change my mind about that. Now for Elaine Archeron is the absolute most useless character of the entire series. What the fuck did she do this book? Nothing. She just popped in and then popped back out, just snooping to see what was happening without her. Was under the protection of Nesta up until this book, and now that Nesta was having a hard time, where was she? Where were you, Miss Girl, every time that she was defending you? Now where are you? Acting as if you're better than her. All of a sudden, name me one useful thing you did the entire series. I'll wait. There's no waiting because you didn't do shit. And yeah, I'm just like, bitch. At the end of ACOTAR, everyone was shipping Elaine with Azriel. I hope that doesn't happen because, again, the predictability. I don't want all 3 brothers to end up with all 3 sisters. That's just, no. Like, in what universe? And I know this is fictional, but in what universe? No. After reading this book, especially after reading that bonus scene of Azriel, I can see him starting to have a relationship with Gwyn instead, which I really hope that's the case. Because Elaine is absolutely useless. Like, if you had told me that there were only 2 Archeron sisters, I would believe you. So that's all I have for spoiler-related stuff, so bye. I hope you liked this reading vlog. This was something new for me. If you've read this already, let me know what you think. I would be very interested to see, like, the different perspectives about this book. And if you haven't, I hope that it was interesting to you as well. It's definitely a journey, as you can see. Overall, did not disappoint, which we love to see, and I'm very relieved. Past Samira would be happy to know that it was not disappointing. I hope you enjoyed, and I think the next book I'll be reading will be Chain of Iron. So we'll see how that goes. But until then, I'll see you next time.